My child, I need you to stop everything and hear me now, because this moment is not ordinary. It is divinely appointed, and I refuse to let it pass without calling your full attention to what is unfolding. Your time has come, not by chance or accident, but because every second of waiting has aligned into the precise moment I ordained long before the world even knew your name. You have endured the waiting room of faith, where the clock seemed frozen and the answers silent, yet you never fully turned away. Now heaven is leaning toward you with unstoppable force, and I am telling you, the delay has expired. What was once in preparation is now in motion. The release has been triggered in the spiritual realm, and the physical world is about to follow with manifestations you can't ignore. You've spent nights wondering if I was still writing your story, but now I'm unveiling a chapter that only makes sense when read through the lens of persistence. I was never far. I was simply preparing the unveiling to match your capacity to carry it. I watched you wrestle with the thought that perhaps it wasn't your time, that maybe others were chosen while you were passed over. But here's what I need you to grasp in this very hour. The reason it took so long is because what I'm about to release through you could not be rushed. You were being refined in secret while I worked behind scenes you couldn't see. There is no more waiting, no more wondering. This is the now moment, the divine collision of your readiness and my promise. The spiritual alarm has gone off in the heavenlies, and I am commanding your soul to awaken to the urgency of this hour. You're not late, you're not forgotten, and you're not overlooked. You are exactly where you need to be for what I am about to pour into your hands. The earth is groaning in anticipation for my sons and daughters to rise, and I am declaring over you that your rising starts today. No more questioning the timing, no more shrinking in fear. I have declared it, and so it shall be. Your time is no longer coming. Your time has come. Stop for a moment and breathe this truth in, because what I'm about to tell you carries the weight of breakthrough that has already begun without your full awareness. The prayers you've whispered, the groans you couldn't articulate, and the desperate pleas you released through tears, I never ignored them. Not one word vanished into emptiness. Not one cry was wasted. They reached me, they moved me, and they ignited a divine movement in realms beyond your vision. Even now, as you read these words, the answers you thought were stuck are advancing toward you. The spiritual traffic has cleared, the release order has been signed, and what you longed for is no longer in limbo. You may not see it yet, but the atmosphere around you is shifting with power, and angelic messengers have already been dispatched. I am telling you with urgency, don't look for it to come. Start preparing to receive it. Heaven is not planning to respond, heaven is already responding. I need you to open your heart wider than ever before, because this outpouring will not trickle, it will overflow. The blessing is not crawling, it is running toward your name. What you assumed was stuck was never denied, it was being strengthened to survive the glory of its arrival. Do not underestimate what is happening just because you can't trace it with your physical senses. What's in motion is irreversible. I am not negotiating this release, I am commanding it. There is a divine urgency in this moment, because I am restoring what the enemy tried to drain from your hope. The answers are chasing you now, not because of your perfection, but because of my promise. The old delay is broken, and acceleration has taken its place. So take heart, lift your head, and prepare for the tangible arrival of what you've dared to believe in silence. You don't need to knock anymore. The door is already swinging open. What was once pending is now prevailing, and I am calling you to recognize the shift before you miss it. Yes, my beloved, it's already in motion, and it will not stop until it finds you. I saw the moments you collapsed under pressure, when the weight was unbearable, and you still chose to speak nothing of it to those around you, believing no one would truly understand. But I understood every groan of your spirit. Even in your quietest hours, when you stared at the ceiling with a heart full of ache and a soul begging for mercy, I was sitting with you, collecting your unspoken pain like sacred treasure. You thought your voice had gone unheard, but in truth, your silent cries created thunder in the courts of heaven. And now, the one who watched every sleepless night, every forced smile, every deep sigh of disappointment. I am responding not with pity, but with power. The silence has been broken not by chance, but by a divine command that could no longer hold back the response to your secret agony. What you suffered in hiding has triggered a supernatural reversal, and I am not simply easing your burden, I am replacing the agony with assurance. Your lonely prayers reached me even when you didn't have the strength to finish your sentences. Your heart spoke, and I heard. You may have wondered, has it all been in vain? And I tell you now, not for one moment did I lose sight of the pressure mounting inside your chest. I saw the days when faith felt like a thread fraying at the edge of despair. I saw how you kept walking when quitting felt easier. And that is why this response isn't ordinary. It's saturated with the glory of my awareness, of my intimacy with your pain, of my detailed involvement in your hidden war. I did not wait because I was punishing you. I waited because what I'm sending had to be perfectly timed to do more than heal. It had to transform. This answer isn't just a response, it's a shift. You will not go back to how things were before. The winds have turned, the gates have opened, and the silence you thought would never end is now being pierced by the sound of heaven declaring, "It is time." And while others saw you as quiet, I saw you as interceding with tears, breaking barriers in the invisible realm. That kind of endurance does not go unrewarded in my kingdom. So lift your eyes, my child, because what once looked like delay is now unfolding in divine rhythm. I'm placing signs in your path, confirmations in your spirit, and peace that interrupts your worry, all to let you know the silence has served its purpose. The waiting room has been vacated. The veil has been lifted. The atmosphere is charged with the reality that your cries have summoned answers with eternal significance. You may not yet comprehend the scale of what is being set in motion, but soon it will be impossible to ignore. I did not forget the things you never told anyone. I remember every moment you kept going when you could have stopped. That kind of resilience creates spiritual earthquakes, and now I am sending the aftershocks of deliverance, provision, clarity, and favor into every area where silence once reigned. The loneliness you felt, I'm filling it with my nearness. The confusion that lingered, I'm overtaking it with fresh vision. The heartbreak that silenced your praise, I'm healing it until you sing again with joy that cannot be explained. And I say to you, even now, do not brace for disappointment, brace for overflow. The answer didn't just arrive, it was always coming, built by my hand, tailored to your need, and timed to reveal my faithfulness in a way that leaves no doubt. You were never ignored. You were being prepared to receive something greater than relief, something that rewrites your story. I am not coming to whisper anymore. I am coming to announce, to declare, to move on your behalf with unstoppable force. The silence has shattered. The sky is no longer still. I'm speaking, and the breakthrough is echoing my voice. You assumed the stillness meant I had turned away, that the wait was some form of punishment or neglect. But I tell you now with intensity, what you called delay was never rejection. It was my craftsmanship working in dimensions you couldn't perceive. I wasn't ignoring you. I was constructing foundations beneath the surface, laying unseen infrastructure for the promises I declared over you. Every time you felt like nothing was moving forward, I was repositioning circumstances, reworking timelines, and protecting you from things you would have called a blessing, but would have become a burden too heavy to carry. The path was never blocked. It was being carved. I had to slow the momentum around you so that I could increase the capacity within you. That's why it felt like everything stalled, like time betrayed you, like others advanced while you were paused. I was shaping you in those hidden spaces, fortifying your spirit, maturing your discernment, and enlarging your wisdom, because the weight of what I have ordained for you required more than just desire. It required development. I saw how your heart hoped, how your hands reached, but I also saw what still needed to be strengthened, so when the outpouring came, it wouldn't crush you. I don't release destiny prematurely. I release it when the vessel is ready to contain it. And my child, though the wait stretched longer than you ever expected, though you wondered if you missed your window, the truth is this: your window is now. Because the preparation is complete. I needed to strip away what was shallow and replace it with what would last. I didn't want you to just receive the blessing. I wanted you to carry it, sustain it, multiply it. That takes time, not as punishment, but as mercy. Because what good is promotion if it destroys you? What good is answered prayer if it collapses under poor foundation? I love you too much to deliver something you're not ready to steward. That's why I placed you in seasons that felt like silence, so you could be purified, sharpened, refined by fire, and reborn with strength the world couldn't see developing. But now, a season has served its purpose. I'm tearing the veil from your eyes so you can recognize what was really happening during those silent months, those slow years. You weren't forgotten, you were being transformed. You weren't denied, you were being deepened. You weren't skipped over, you were being equipped. And now the tools forged in the furnace of delay are the very tools you will use to walk boldly into what I've released for you. The long pauses were training grounds, not dead ends. I allowed certain things to be postponed so that when they finally arrived, they wouldn't just bless your life, they'd build others through your testimony. So hear me clearly. Every moment you waited was multiplied in value. I am not a God of waste. I redeem time. I turn every second of endurance into divine interest. Nothing you've lived through will go unused. Your waiting has graduated into fulfillment, not because the wait broke you, but because you endured without letting go of me. You may not have always understood, but you kept walking. You may have whispered doubts, but you didn't disconnect. That is why the fullness can now come, because the preparation has produced someone ready to receive, not just from me, but with me. The delay was never the enemy. The delay was my design. And now, what I preserved for you in secret is being revealed with power, precision, and perfect timing. You looked around and saw others being chosen, celebrated, advancing, and somewhere deep within your weary soul, a question began to form. Have you forgotten me, Lord? And I heard it, not just as a thought but as a trembling ache wrapped in silence. I watched you sit in the quiet shadows while others were spotlighted, and still, you did curse the process. But I need you to know something now with urgency. You were never overlooked. Not for a moment was my attention away from you. What felt like abandonment was actually the crafting of a holy unveiling, a stage being prepared with such care that when I present what I've hidden within you, no one, not even you, will be able to deny that it was worth every unseen moment. I wasn't ignoring you. I was constructing a display of my glory in your life that required precise orchestration. I didn't let you remain invisible out of neglect, but out of intention. Because what I placed inside you was never meant to shine prematurely. I had to conceal you, to protect what was sacred, to guard what was still in formation. If I had revealed you too soon, the world would have misjudged you, and you might have doubted your worth even further. But now, I am removing the curtain. The divine spotlight I withheld until now is being turned toward you, not because you demanded recognition, but because you were faithful even when no one was watching. I know how often you question your purpose, how many times you measured yourself against the timing of others, wondering if somehow you missed the moment. But child, how can you miss what I've reserved specifically for you? I am the author of moments, the keeper of timing, the one who knows exactly when the fruit is ready to be revealed. And you, my precious one, have reached the season of unveiling. I've been positioning you while others were performing. I've been rooting you deeper while others were reaching higher. But now the growth that happened in silence is about to erupt into visible impact. The room you felt invisible in, I'm about to make it echo with your testimony. The table you weren't invited to, I'm preparing one just for you in full view of those who doubted your presence. And this is not a moment of revenge, but of recognition. Recognition not from man but from heaven. I've seen every hidden seed, every private surrender, every quiet act of obedience, and I've called it holy. And now the harvest is rising not only for you, but through you, so that others may see my faithfulness reflected in your story. I did not forget. I was composing a divine introduction, one that could not be rushed. What is opening before you now is not a random opportunity. It is the fulfillment of every unseen yes, every surrendered desire, every sacrificial step you took while still uncertain. I am placing you in rooms you once dreamed of entering, not because you fought your way in, but because you trusted me when nothing made sense. This kind of honor can't be fabricated. It must be forged. And that's what I've been doing all along. So breathe deeply and lift your head, because what once felt like divine silence will now resound with unmistakable affirmation. Your name is being whispered in places you've never been. Your purpose is activating the doors I kept sealed until now, and the glory that I've prepared, not the world's version, but mine, is descending on the stage that's been set in secret. It's not too late. You're not behind. You are right on time for the story I've written, the one that glorifies me through everything I've shaped inside of you. You've spent so many seasons questioning why certain things never worked out. Doors that looked perfect in your eyes suddenly slammed shut without warning, and you blamed yourself, wondered if you prayed wrong, fasted incorrectly, or somehow failed to qualify. But let me reveal the truth to you now with urgency. Those locked doors weren't punishments, they were divine shields. I saw what was on the other side, and I spared you from counterfeit opportunities that would have drained you instead of developing you. You wept at thresholds I refused to let you cross, not knowing I was guarding your destiny from entanglements that would have delayed your true purpose. You didn't fail. You were preserved. I wasn't withholding blessing from you. I was blocking access to distractions disguised as favor. I didn't allow certain offers to mature because I knew they would fracture your focus, wound your identity, or tether you to cycles that would suffocate your growth. Every detour was strategic. Every no was layered with unseen mercy. I watched as you stared at doors that never opened, wondering if I even heard your prayers, and now I want you to understand that I was listening more closely than you realized, intervening not by silence, but by sovereign interruption. Because what I'm about to open for you will carry a weight of glory that you weren't yet ready to handle back then. But now your heart has been shaped, your roots have been deepened, your discernment has matured, and your spirit has been refined through fire. And because of that, the access I withheld is now being released, not as a gamble, but as an appointment. The opportunity that's emerging isn't another guess. It's the fulfillment of the vision I placed inside you long before you even had the language to describe it. This door will not mimic the old ones. It won't tease you and vanish. It won't give just enough to keep you chasing. It will remain open by my authority, and nothing, no man, no system, no failure, can shut what I have decided to reveal. You'll know it's me not because of ease but because of peace. Not because of applause but because of alignment. You won't have to force this opening. You won't have to compromise or perform. It will fit your anointing like a garment custom-made in the throne room. I am placing you where your gifts can breathe and your calling can stretch beyond borders. You will not be confined by man-made ceilings or intimidated by unfamiliar ground. I have equipped you for what's next, and I'm walking you through the threshold myself. I need you to stop mourning what didn't happen and start expecting what's about to. Because what's ahead is not connected to what you lost. It's connected to what I preserved. You thought you missed your moment, but in reality, I was reserving your seat at a table you hadn't seen yet. And now, I am bringing you directly to it. Do not let the pain of rejection rob you of the joy of recognition. You are not chasing open doors anymore. The right one is swinging wide, and it knows your name. You are stepping into something tailor-fitted to the destiny I spoke over you before you ever took your first breath. You are not being tested anymore, you are being trusted. And I am the one unlocking what no human hand could fabricate. This door, my child, is the one you dreamed about, even in the seasons when you had stopped dreaming. This is what I've been preparing you for. Not a generic breakthrough, but a specifically assigned doorway into everything I promised, everything I protected, and everything I kept hidden until you were truly ready to walk in. You've walked through landscapes where nothing moved, where every effort met invisible opposition, where the air felt thick with resistance and every step forward felt like dragging chains of weariness behind you. But hear me now, because the spiritual climate around you is bowing, not because the atmosphere grew lighter, but because your authority has increased. What once stood in defiance against you is now breaking beneath the weight of the oil I've poured over your life through trial, fire, and perseverance. You did not realize it at the time, but every moment of delay, every confrontation with fear, every disappointment, they have been forging in you a mantle that hell can no longer stand against. I watched you push forward when the ground felt dry and prayers seemed unanswered, and now creation itself is recognizing the maturity you've gained. The resistance didn't break you, it revealed you. The opposition wasn't proof you were out of alignment. It was confirmation you were carrying something dangerous to darkness. You may have felt like the pressure was punishment, but I was building spiritual muscle you couldn't have gained any other way. And now, what once hindered you is losing its hold. There's a surrender happening in the invisible realm. The structures that stood tall and mocked your progress are collapsing. The walls that refused to move are now cracking under the power of your obedience. This isn't you becoming more worthy. This is my glory rising through the cracks of your surrender. You didn't back down, even when you questioned everything. You stayed in the race, bruised but still reaching, misunderstood but never quitting. And now the resistance is giving way. The warfare that followed you for years is tiring under the weight of your endurance. You're not pushing in vain anymore. The ground is breaking open because your presence carries the sound of heaven now. Doors are not just opening, territories are being released. What once seemed locked by forces beyond your understanding is being released because your authority is no longer in development. It's in motion. I have watched as the enemy tried to outlast your faith, thinking you would eventually give up, but you didn't. And now, the season is shifting. It cannot hold you anymore. What opposed you must now recognize the power that rests upon your life. You are not the same as you were when this all began. You've been transformed through endurance. You've been refined through affliction. And that process has produced weight, not worldly weight, but spiritual gravity. Things will start responding differently to you now, not because the situation has changed, but because your identity has risen to the level I always knew was inside you. The season you fought through so bitterly is bowing its head to the anointing that has quietly matured in you. The gates that refuse to open are trembling because you are no longer knocking in your own strength. You are moving in my authority, and darkness recognizes what heaven has endorsed. You don't need to beg for entrance anymore. You are being invited into spaces that once rejected you. The resistance is folding, not because the battle is over, but because your spirit now carries victory before the war even begins. That is the level I've raised you to, where resistance no longer delays you. It identifies you. You are walking into environments that once drained you, and now they will be transformed by your presence. What you once feared will now fear what I've placed in you. The shift has already begun. It won't be stopped, and it cannot be reversed. The opposition isn't growing stronger, it's growing weary. And I am telling you now, this season cannot stand against the weight of what I've built within you. You are no longer trying to push your way in. The atmosphere is making room, the barriers are dissolving, and the very things that once resisted you are now surrendering without a fight. You've been counting the pieces of what slipped through your hands, mourning the time, the relationships, the moments you hoped would bloom but instead vanished without explanation. But I am doing more than replacing what was stolen. I'm reaching into places you never even knew were empty and filling them with abundance that no past loss can measure against. I saw not only what was taken from you, but also what you were denied before you even had the strength to ask. There were blessings that should have arrived in earlier chapters, opportunities that were rightfully yours yet never came, affirmations you longed to hear but never received, and I have not overlooked them. In fact, I have kept record of everything that should have been released but wasn't. I'm not responding to tragedy with mere recovery. I'm responding to your journey with holy compensation. This isn't just restoration, It's fulfillment on a deeper level. I am going into the foundation of your life, into the roots of your history, and I am releasing healing, recompense, and supply in places that have always ached in silence. There were inheritances blocked by injustice, breakthroughs delayed by human limitation, and dreams suffocated by fear that was planted in you by the voices of the past. But now I say, enough. This is the hour where the scales tip. I am pouring into your present what should have flowed from the beginning, not because you demanded it, but because you endured the drought without bitterness. You didn't retaliate when you were overlooked. You didn't lash out when others were celebrated for gifts that you carried, too. You kept showing up, even when you had to do it with a broken heart and unanswered questions. And because of that, I am not just repairing what you know. I'm giving you access to what you never imagined was meant for you. The fullness of what I'm releasing will overflow into generations, because what I'm building through you is not just for your comfort, it's for your legacy. I am reweaving timelines, revisiting past moments with fresh justice, and realigning what was misaligned before you had language to pray about it. Even the doors that never opened, the people who never supported you, and the things you didn't even know you needed, I'm addressing it all. This is not a transaction. It's a full restoration of design. I'm completing what was always meant to be whole. You have no idea how many miracles I preserved for this moment, simply because you chose to keep trusting me when it made no sense. That trust has made room for a wave of restoration that exceeds your history and touches your destiny. I am blessing you in places that you thought were closed forever. I'm softening hard ground, illuminating dim corners, and rebuilding you from the inside out with details that were missing since your earliest years. This is not the return of what you lost. This is the release of what was reserved. And I am not releasing it partially or slowly. I am unlocking it in fullness, because you have walked long enough without it. My spirit is not just responding to your wounds. It's responding to your faithfulness. I know how hard it was to believe in better when your hands were empty. I know the war that raged in your mind as you waited without visible hope. And now, I say the silence has been broken and the withheld blessings are being poured out. Not because you begged, but because I am faithful. You didn't miss your portion. It was saved for such a time as this. And now, as the heavens move to release what was never given before, you will finally step into a life that reflects the love I've always had for you. A love that restores not only what you remember, but what you never had the chance to receive. What once came to crush your spirit, silence your hope, and render you invisible will now become the very platform upon which my power will be revealed. The affliction that sought to smother your identity has been overturned, and what the enemy thought would be your grave is now becoming the very soil that births a public unveiling of everything I've cultivated within you in secret. I watched how suffering stretched across your days like a shadow, how grief pressed into your chest like a weight you couldn't explain to anyone, how the blows you endured left not just bruises but deep, unspoken fractures that tried to convince you your purpose had expired. But I tell you now with undeniable force, I have used the very pain that was meant to silence you as fuel to resurrect you with power, clarity, and presence. You were not abandoned in your lowest hour. I was there, kneeling beside you in the pit, not pulling you out immediately because I was resurrecting you layer by layer from within. You didn't realize it, but even in your stillness, you were being rewired. Even in your sorrow, you were becoming a voice. Even when you couldn't see yourself clearly, I was shaping the reflection that will now shine in places your wounds tried to keep you out of. The pain was never final. It was a passage, not a prison. It was a crucible, not a conclusion. And I am the one who holds the final word. I am turning every groan, every betrayal, every inner collapse into a declaration of triumph. You won't have to prove your comeback. Your very life will radiate the proof. The ashes that clung to your hands in seasons of loss are being swept away by the breath of my spirit. I am resurrecting your voice, restoring your courage, and reigniting the dreams that once lay dormant beneath sorrow. This revival will not be quiet. I'm not reviving you in hiding. I am calling you out, not to perform but to stand, tall, steady, radiant. The same ground that held your weeping will now echo your laughter. The same story that once ended in heartbreak will now be retold as glory. Your scars will not be shameful, they will shine as signs of survival. I will not erase your history. I will redefine it through the lens of my redemptive purpose. Even the tears you cried without words will now become testimony spoken through transformed authority. I am elevating the brokenness the world tried to bury. The very people who assumed it was over for you will watch as I raise you with purpose that cannot be silenced. I'm not just reviving your soul, I'm raising your whole story. I am lifting the veil of sorrow and replacing it with the light of revelation. You will no longer walk with your head bowed low from heaviness. I'm clothing you in garments of power, shoes of readiness, and a mantle of undeniable favor. You will carry yourself differently, not because of pride, but because resurrection rewrites posture. I need you to know this. The worst moment of your life did not cancel my call on your name. I have not discarded you. I have preserved you. And now the stage is set, not for your performance, but for my glory to erupt through the very places the enemy tried to declare dead. I allowed pain to teach you, not to destroy you. I allowed heartbreak to humble you, not to define you. And now, just as I rose from the grave and left it empty, I'm raising you from what tried to entomb your promise. This is your resurrection hour, and what once was a whisper of defeat will now thunder with the sound of destiny coming alive. You stood face to face with forces that whispered you wouldn't make it, storms that came uninvited, valleys that seemed to stretch endlessly, weights that tried to anchor your soul in discouragement. And yet, despite everything, you kept rising. What once loomed over your life like an immovable wall is now crumbling under the authority that has awakened within you. You didn't know it then, but each attack, each burden, each unexpected blow became fuel for the divine force I've been igniting inside your spirit. While darkness thought it could suppress you, all it really did was press you closer to me, and in that closeness, something irreversible happened. You discovered endurance. You learned how to remain when everything told you to run. You sharpened your discernment in fire, strengthened your resilience through silence, and built unwavering confidence not in yourself, but in my presence that never abandoned you, not even for a second. And now, what once had the power to shake you has lost its grip entirely. The very things that taunted you with failure are now recognizing that the ground they once occupied belongs to the authority I have birthed through your faith. The atmosphere is shifting in your favor because what's within you has outgrown what was against you. Your identity has caught up with your calling, and now resistance can no longer compete with revelation. You are walking in a strength that hell cannot mimic, and every shadow that once hovered over your progress is shrinking under the brilliance of my light in you. You didn't realize that while you were breaking, I was building. While you were questioning, I was qualifying. What intimidated you before now trembles at the weight of your growth. You are no longer the same version of yourself that fear once targeted. You have been transformed into someone who carries heaven's authority on earth. This transformation didn't happen overnight, and it didn't come without cost. But every battle has become a banner, every struggle a story, every weakness a wellspring of supernatural strength. The adversities that once mocked your efforts are now yielding to your voice, because your voice no longer speaks from insecurity, it speaks from encounter. You've seen too much of my faithfulness to be shaken by lies. You survived too many dark nights to fall for illusions. What tried to crush you underestimated the fire I planted within your bones, a fire that now consumes every lie that told you to shrink. There is a boldness rising in you, not because you're trying to be seen, but because I'm calling you to stand in places where fear used to silence you. The internal storms you navigated have become blueprints for breakthrough. I am sending you back into some of the very places that once overwhelmed you, but this time, you will not walk in as a victim. You will step in as a vessel. What once overpowered you will now submit to the authority I've deposited in your spirit. Chains you couldn't break before are now snapping with a whisper of your faith. You're not struggling to find your strength anymore. You're standing in it. And I'm not just using you as a survivor's story. I'm establishing you as a threat to the very systems that once tried to bury your voice. Every demon that mocked you will now be forced to witness your elevation. The tormentors of your past can no longer touch your present. You're moving from survival into dominion, and this shift cannot be reversed. You won't have to prove yourself. You won't have to explain the fire in your steps. You won't need validation, because what is now evident in your life carries the fingerprint of my power. I'm not asking you to pretend to be bold. I'm showing you that the roar inside you is real. It was formed in the wilderness, and it now commands attention in every place you enter. The days of you bowing to opposition are over. Now, opposition is bowing to the one I have raised up with unshakable strength, and that one is you. Every force that stood against you, every voice that questioned your worth, every circumstance that laughed at your hope, I have seen it all, and I have recorded each instance not to shame you, but to use as evidence when I raise you in front of those who thought you were finished. You were mocked not because you were weak, but because you were dangerous. The ridicule wasn't a reflection of your failure, it was a reaction to your potential. The enemy tried to use the noise around you to dismantle the belief within you, but what he didn't know was that I was using every word of doubt as a stepping stone for your next dimension. This moment you are stepping into is not ordinary. It is a divine unveiling where the same eyes that scanned your brokenness will now behold your breakthrough. I am bringing you into places where the memory of your struggle will no longer define you. Your rise will rewrite the narrative. You won't need to fight for recognition. I am placing my favor upon you in a way that cannot be ignored. Those who dismissed your journey will now be audience to the fulfillment of promises I made over you when no one else was watching. The very ones who questioned if you would ever recover will witness me exalt you with no explanation other than my hand. This is not about revenge. This is about my justice. I do not elevate to satisfy pride. I lift to reveal purpose. I am not responding to the mockery to silence it. I am showing the world what it means when I stand beside one of my own. You cried quietly, endured secretly, and still showed up with humility. Now watch as I honor your faithfulness publicly. You didn't retaliate. You didn't defend yourself. You allowed me to be your shield. And because you chose surrender over reaction, I am making your name known in places you never imagined. I am giving you access that no man can block. This isn't a promotion based on human systems. It is a positioning that only I could orchestrate. Your elevation is not simply about rising. It's about revealing what I've hidden inside you all along. They thought you were finished because they judged you by your season, but I measured you by your substance. I saw the fire you carried when all they saw was your ashes. I saw the promise still blowing beneath the surface when all they could point to was your pain. And now, I am calling that promise to the surface. I am not asking for their permission. I am not consulting their opinions. I am opening a door they cannot shut, and I'm doing it in plain sight so that my glory will be unmistakable. You will walk with authority in rooms where you were once overlooked. You will be celebrated in spaces that once barely tolerated your presence. You will speak with wisdom in places where your voice was once silent. This is the kind of elevation that turns heads, not for vanity's sake, but because it forces even the hardest hearts to recognize that I am real, I am faithful, and I am still moving in power. Don't hide anymore. Don't shrink when the spotlight lands on you. I didn't bring you through the fire to have you whisper in the aftermath. I raised you for such a time as this. Let your confidence be rooted in my presence. Let your strength come from knowing I saw what others didn't, and I called it good. The opposition served its purpose, and now it will serve as a witness. No longer will the sound of mockery echo louder than the truth of your calling. That sound is being drowned out by the thunder of your rising, and nothing, not history, not rumor, not resistance, can stop what I've begun in you. What you asked for was shaped by what you understood at the time. Your prayers were sincere, your petitions honest, but you didn't know how much more I had in mind. While you were simply hoping to survive, I was designing overflow. While you were asking for enough to get through, I was preparing a release that would stretch beyond your current need and touch places you didn't think could ever flourish again. I heard every request, every whispered hope, and every silent yearning you dared not speak aloud, and yet, I never limited my response to your words alone. I looked at your heart, your sacrifice, your loyalty when it cost you comfort, and I decided you were not just worthy of receiving, you were worthy of experiencing abundance. You see, I'm not the God who delivers partial promises. I don't respond with fragments when my intention is fulfillment. I am doing something that will go far beyond the outline of your imagination. You were prepared to celebrate if I just gave you back what you lost, but I'm not returning things in the same condition. They were taken. I'm giving you back more than you dared to believe was possible. Not because you earned it, not because you performed perfectly, but because you waited well. And while you were waiting, I was upgrading the blessing. I'm answering with acceleration. I'm releasing with magnitude. What's coming into your life won't just restore what you missed. It will elevate your entire perception of what I can do. This isn't about me meeting you halfway. This is about me overwhelming you with more than enough. You're stepping into days where prayers you forgot you even prayed will begin to bloom before your eyes. Places in your life that felt permanently dry will suddenly spring forth with beauty you never saw coming. I am not answering on your timeline, but on mine, and my timing always comes with more than you bargained for. You won't have to stretch your faith to believe it's real. You'll have to stretch your capacity to contain it. This is the kind of fulfillment that silences doubt, the kind of provision that rewrites limitations, the kind of favor that causes people to ask, "How did this happen?" And you will answer not with explanations, but with worship. I didn't bring you this far to drop crumbs. I brought you here to sit you at a table that overflows. You thought the process was hard, and it was. You thought the silence was long, and it was. But the weight of what I am releasing will make it all make sense. You're not just getting results. You're receiving recompense. You're not just being helped. You're being honored. And this will not be a temporary moment. It will mark a permanent shift. This is not a glimpse. It is a turning point. You're about to walk into rooms you didn't even know existed. I am placing you in proximity to people, ideas, and resources that were never even part of your original request. And that's because I answer based on purpose, not just petition. I respond based on vision, not just volume. I am not confined by what you could articulate in prayer. I see your entire future, and I supply according to your destiny, not your current comfort zone. Prepare to be surprised. Prepare to be interrupted by joy. Prepare to be overwhelmed by the immensity of my faithfulness. I have not just heard you. I have gone beyond what you hoped. What's coming will leave you breathless, not with fear but with awe. You won't question whether it was me. You'll marvel that I would go to such lengths to show you how deeply you are loved. Your requests reached me. But my answer is going to surpass every expectation you thought was already too big. You kept believing when evidence was nowhere to be found, when outcomes were silent, and the only thing you could hold on to was my word, and that unseen persistence has now activated a visible shift. What your natural eyes could not perceive, your spirit kept reaching toward, and now the unseen realm you touched through faith is releasing its fruit into your reality. You didn't know it, but every time you chose to believe without proof, to trust when nothing was changing, to praise through the absence of breakthrough, you were building bridges between heaven and earth. And now, the things that once felt distant are drawing near, not because you chased them, but because your faith drew them. What you couldn't see was forming in the realm I dwell in, and now, it's crossing over into your atmosphere. You're about to witness the tangible response to invisible obedience. The realm you partnered with in prayer is now releasing manifestations into the natural, and this is not coincidence, it's fulfillment. The words you declared when no one understood, the hope you nurtured when others called it denial, the strength you clung to in midnight hours, all of it was seen, cherished, and recorded in heaven's ledger. And now, that ledger is being opened. The promises are being released into motion. Faith doesn't leave things untouched. It activates realities waiting to respond to belief that endures. You didn't need to see it to believe it, and because of that, now you will see it. That's how the kingdom works. The rhythm of heaven always honors those who walk by faith and not by sight. And you've done just that. Even when it hurt. Even when it cost you comfort, companionship, and credibility in the eyes of others. You chose the narrow way, the surrendered path. And I've never been blind to it. I've been responding to it in dimensions you couldn't reach with your hands. But now, your hands will hold what your heart carried for so long. You've stepped into the moment where invisible seeds become visible fruit. You're not imagining the shift. It's real, and it's permanent. The time of waiting in silence is breaking into a time of reaping with joy. Heaven is no longer silent toward your expectation. The spiritual weight your faith carried has tipped the scale. Now doors will swing open, not because you pushed, but because you trusted. Now answers will unfold, not because you forced them, but because you endured the unseen process. You need to know this isn't a small ripple. It's a cascading release. The visible is responding not only to your declarations, but to your discipline. The unseen honored your resilience. The visible will now honor your reward. Don't be surprised when what you hoped for starts showing up suddenly. Don't be startled when confirmations begin arriving without warning. This is the result of standing when you could have sat down, of believing when you had every reason to surrender. What you didn't realize is that each act of hidden faith became a key. And now those keys are unlocking places you never thought you'd enter. I'm turning faith into form. I'm taking what was felt but never touched and giving it substance in your life. Dreams are taking shape. Delays are turning into deliveries. Prayers are becoming experiences. You are about to walk into days where your reality matches what you carried in your spirit. And when it happens, you'll recognize it instantly, because it won't feel unfamiliar. It'll feel like home. It will feel like the things you've been whispering with me in secret are now speaking loudly to the world around you. You'll be able to say, "This is what I saw when no one else could." That's the reward of true faith, the kind that sees through the fog and believes through the fire. You're about to see how real that faith was. The visible has heard what the unseen already confirmed. And now, it will testify of what I've always known, that your belief was never in vain. There were hours so heavy that breathing itself felt like a battle, moments where you stared at nothing and felt everything at once, when your heart, stretched thin by weariness, begged for relief, and still, you stood. I witnessed the exact second you thought about walking away from it all, not because you lacked faith, but because your soul was exhausted from holding on in the dark. Those moments weren't signs of weakness. They were windows into how deeply you believe it, even when hope was flickering like a dying flame. I never turned my eyes away. I was closer to you then than ever before, holding your spirit together in the silence, surrounding your breaking heart with unseen reinforcements. I didn't see failure in your doubt. I saw courage in your choice to keep going despite it. You may not realize it, but those near breaking points have become some of heaven's most treasured testimonies. Not because you performed perfectly, but because you refused to let go of me, even when everything within you screamed to stop. I saw the tears that soaked your pillow when no one checked in. I watched your hands tremble as you tried to lift them in worship while grief pushed them down. And even when your words failed, your endurance spoke volumes. The enemy thought those low places would be your undoing, but I took those ashes and etched them into your story as chapters of sacred endurance. They've become markers of identity, proof that what lives inside you is not ordinary, it's divinely forged. You didn't collapse under pressure, you stood while bleeding internally. That kind of perseverance isn't born from willpower, it comes from being rooted in something deeper than sight. You were anchored in me, even when your emotions told you otherwise. And now, what you thought were silent defeats are being reframed as victories in disguise. Because every time you whispered, "I can't do this anymore," but got up anyway, the kingdom took notice. Angels leaned in. Heaven applauded. I smiled, not because you were paying free, but because you were faith-filled. And now, I am weaving those quiet nights, those unseen wars, into the very foundation of the strength you will carry forward. The mantle resting on you is not light because your journey was light. It is heavy with meaning, soaked in the reality that you earned through survival. I didn't rescue you early because I was building resilience. I didn't rush in with relief because I knew what was developing in your spirit could not be manufactured through ease. I had to let you walk through places that made no sense, so that when I elevate you now, your roots would be unshakable. Others will see your rise and call it sudden, but you, and I know the history behind your strength. I watched you cling to fragments of belief, piecing together faith from the ruins of disappointment. I witnessed you love me while wondering if I'd ever come through. And that's why your time has come, not just because the promise is ready, but because you are. You've been tested in fire, and now I'm clothing you with authority that cannot be faked. Your strength isn't loud, but it's undeniable. It's the kind of strength that turns valleys into sanctuaries, the kind that causes storms to lose their bite. You will no longer carry shame for your breaking points. You'll wear them like armor, proof that even at your lowest, you were still chosen. Even when your voice trembled, your yes to me remained. And now, I am responding to those yeses. I am building altars out of the very places you thought were graves. What nearly destroyed you is now being turned into divine momentum. So don't look back with regret. Look ahead with expectation. Those moments didn't disqualify you. They proved you. And now the world will see the strength I've always seen in you. I watched every tear slide down your face when no one else noticed, each drop speaking what your voice couldn't say, sorrow that words were too fragile to carry. But those tears were never wasted. I gathered them with care, like sacred offerings placed before my throne. Not one escaped my attention, not one vanished into nothing. They were not signs of defeat. They were declarations of trust. Even in agony, you turned to me. Even in heartbreak, you wept in my presence. And now, those moments of release, soaked in loneliness, tremors of grief, and groans too deep to articulate, have taken root in my presence. What once felt like pure loss is now germinating beneath the surface of your story. I turned those tears into seeds, and their harvest is coming. What you thought was weakness has produced strength that cannot be shaken. The very nights that broke you are now birthing evidence of my hand in your life. The testimony that will flow from your lips won't be crafted through learned phrases or borrowed faith. It will emerge from the ground soaked in your own weeping, grown in darkness, watered by persistence, and kissed by my light. You cried because you cared. You cried because your spirit longed for truth, for justice, for healing. And I have honored every cry. I do not despise your tears. I translate them. Where others heard silence, I heard songs. Where others saw breakdown, I saw breakthrough in process. Now, I'm calling forth the life hidden within those hidden cries. I'm raising testimonies out of anguish. I'm building monuments from moments that once left you curled up in desperation. You will speak of my goodness not as a concept, but as a lived reality. When people hear your story, they won't just hear about sorrow. They'll encounter redemption woven into every detail. Your voice will carry weight, not because you rehearsed your lines, but because you lived every syllable. You walked through fire and did not burn. You stood in storms and were not swept away. You endured drought and still chose to water others. And I saw you all. I stood at the edge of every long night and whispered, "Hold on. I'm making this meaningful." Now, the fruit is beginning to show. You will testify not from the comfort of ease, but from the authority of survival. What once made you weep will now make others believe. I'm giving your tears a voice. I'm turning pain into purpose and silence into sound. I'm multiplying your weeping into healing for others. Where you were once the one searching for answers, now you'll carry answers for those lost in the places you used to be. The ground that was soaked in your grief is now the place where joy will spring forth. The same hands that wiped away tears will soon lift in praise, not out of obligation, but from uncontainable wonder at what I've done with what you thought was too broken to use. You will not have to force your story. it will flow, and it will set others free. And as you share, you'll feel the wind of heaven on every word, because I've anointed your pain to prophecy. It will no longer torment you. It will teach others what grace looks like when all seems lost. The chapters you tried to hide will become the very ones that unlock chains. You'll stand not as a victim of suffering but as a vessel of glory. Your tears did not fall in vain. They have prepared a harvest unlike anything you've seen. And as that harvest rises, you'll understand, not all seeds are planted in soil. Some are planted in tears. And you, my beloved, have sown generously in weeping. And now, get ready to reap in joy, for your testimony is rising from the ground you thought would swallow you, and it will carry power that changes everything. There's something sacred about the places that once carried your pain, the rooms where your heart shattered in silence, the moments when you clenched your fists to keep from falling apart, the memories that still echo with the sound of things ending before they ever had a chance to grow. And I am returning you to those very places, not to reopen the wound, but to rewrite the atmosphere. I am not sending you backward. I am sending you healed. You will not revisit with the same pain. You will return with a new expression on your face, not because you've forgotten what happened there, but because I have transformed what it means. The places that once drained your laughter will now carry the sound of joy rising again, unforced and overflowing, not borrowed from others but born from deep restoration. I am turning sorrow into gladness, not by removing the past, but by redeeming it. That space in your story where grief used to live is about to become the stage for my goodness to be revealed. You won't need to fake your joy. It won't be a mask, or a performance, or a cover-up. The smile will come from within, where peace has taken root, where wholeness has replaced fragments, where gratitude has taken over where bitterness once tried to live. I saw where you were crushed, where you whispered, "Why here? Why now? Why me?" And now I'm answering, because I plan to bring beauty from this exact place. Not another city, not another relationship, not another setting. Here, where the tears once flowed, celebration will rise. Where you once questioned if you'd ever feel normal again, I'm giving you a joy that exceeds what you once defined as normal. I am walking with you back into the scene of the heartbreak to show you what healing looks like in full bloom. It won't feel the same. The atmosphere has changed, because you have changed. The weight that pressed down on your soul there won't recognize you, because you are no longer carrying the burden of who you used to be. The old version of you, the one that broke down, doubted, and feared, has been made new through the fire of perseverance. Now you will walk into that place with clarity, with grace, with laughter that rises from somewhere unshaken. You will not dread the memory. You will honor the journey. You'll see that I never left you, even in the darkest hour. And now, in full view of what once tried to destroy you, I will clothe you in radiance that cannot be denied. They said nothing good could come from there, from that chapter, from that season. But I'm bringing out something so beautiful, it will silence every doubt that once surrounded you. The very people who saw you crying will now see you rejoicing. Not in arrogance, but in awe. Not in revenge, but in revelation. I have turned the pages, and this new one will carry weight that only healing can hold. You won't have to explain how you made it. Your face will say what words never could. There is a light that shines from the soul of someone who made it through without losing their praise, and I'm setting that light upon you now. I know what it cost you to survive what you went through. I know how many times you held on by a thread. And this joy I'm giving you, it's not temporary. It's not shallow. It's not situational. It's rooted in knowing that what broke you didn't win, and what nearly ended you has now been turned into a reason to dance. I'm making you smile in the same place you thought would always remind you of pain, not because the memory is gone, but because I have replaced the ending. This is not a recovery story. It's a redemption testimony. And as you laugh again, truly laugh from the depths of your renewed spirit, you'll understand. I don't just restore. I reverse the atmosphere and raise up joy in the very places where despair once set. That smile, my child, will not just reflect healing, it will carry glory. There were parts of your life you once tried to hide, areas you thought disqualified you, places in your heart you labeled as too broken to ever carry purpose. You lived through seasons where the shame of your struggles kept your head low, where your faults screamed louder than your faith, and where failure felt like a full stop. But I never saw you through the lens of those stumbles. I looked deeper, beyond what collapsed, into the soil that was being softened to carry something eternal. And now I tell you with full authority, that very place, that flaw, that chapter, that burden you thought would always haunt you, will become the vessel through which my strength is shown. I'm turning what once embarrassed you into the very anchor of your authority. You thought it was your undoing, but it's becoming your foundation. I never required perfection from you, I required surrender. And what you handed over in weakness, I have transformed in secret. I was not repelled by your struggle. I was drawn to your honesty. You invited me into the depths others turned away from, and that's why I've built something there that's about to shake atmospheres. You'll no longer speak from theory, you'll speak from victory formed in the valleys. The same area where you once stumbled will now carry healing for others. Where you once broke, now you will build. What once drained your confidence will now amplify your message. I'm bringing full reversal, not by erasing the past, but by rewriting its role in your future. It is not a stain, it is a stage. A pain didn't win. The addiction didn't end you. The mistake didn't remove you from purpose. Instead, they became places where grace collided with reality. And now, what felt like a curse is producing testimony that hell cannot silence. You will not be known for what failed. You will be known for how I rebuilt you. Not with borrowed strength, but with resilience born of fire. You didn't realize it while you were in it, but your wounds were becoming wells. Your weakest place became the entry point for supernatural strength that did not come from performance, applause, or achievement. It came from raw encounters with me in the middle of your breaking. It's where power was born. The kind that can't be faked. The kind that carries presence. The kind that makes darkness tremble. I am not giving you polished perfection. I'm giving you holy fire, refined through tears, shaped by humility, and wrapped in grace. You no longer have to apologize for your past. It has become the proof that nothing is too lost for me to use. I didn't skip over your scars. I preserved them so they would speak when your words couldn't. When people see you now, they will sense something they cannot explain, because they will encounter the weight of someone who overcame what was sent to destroy them. And that overcoming isn't arrogance. It's redemption in full display. Your weakness did not destroy your destiny. It revealed the depth of your calling. You now carry insight that cannot be taught, wisdom forged in pressure, and empathy that makes room for others to breathe. It is power. Real, quiet, steady power that radiates from the one who has faced darkness and still chosen light. I didn't just help you survive the chapter. I anointed you through it. I took your ashes and formed a mantle from them. And now, when you speak, it won't be from theory. It will be from victory. Not the kind the world gives, but the kind I birth in those who yield their pain in exchange for purpose. The very thing that almost destroyed you will now become the platform where my glory will dwell. You no longer need to fear being seen. I'm not asking you to hide the journey. I'm inviting you to let it speak. Because what once marked you with shame will now shine as the greatest sign of my redemption. And through it, others will find the courage to believe that they, too, are not too far gone. Before any earthly system tried to define your worth, before any voice attempted to assign limits to your identity, a ruling was already made in the highest realm, and it bears your name. In the courts that govern destinies, where angels lean in and the enemy has no say, your case has already been decided, and the final word is not fear, failure, or forfeiture. It is triumph. Every accusation launched against your purpose has been silenced by the evidence of your faith. I have stood as your advocate, not pleading for mercy as if you were condemned, but declaring the truth of who you are as one I have chosen, cleansed, and called. You have not been forgotten in the deliberations of heaven. Your tears, your trials, your trust in the unseen, they have not only been seen, they've been honored. This was not a battle for attention. It was a matter of eternal authority. And I'm telling you now, not with suggestion, but with certainty, the gavel has come down, and the ruling cannot be overturned. You are not waiting for breakthrough. You are walking into the full manifestation of what has already been declared. The forces that tried to halt your movement, the voices that tried to sow doubt, the circumstances that seem stacked against you, none of them hold the final word. I do, and I have rendered the judgment in your favor. The verdict is not temporary relief, it is enduring victory. It is not based on your perfection, but on my promise. I overruled every lie spoken over your life, every delay that tried to discourage you, every detour that attempted to derail your confidence. This isn't a verdict you need to earn. It's one you are called to embody. I didn't just deliver you from accusation. I positioned you with authority. You now carry the mark of one who had been justified by heaven's decree. You're not operating from deficit. You're operating from divine approval. The label of not enough had been removed. The shame that once followed you like a shadow has been lifted. The guilt that whispered through sleepless nights has lost its grip. I have not only removed your chains, I've placed a seal of belonging upon you that no one can revoke. And now, I'm bringing you into places that once rejected you, not as a guest, but as one who carries the full weight of heaven's backing. What tried to resist you will now recognize the authority you carry. Because this verdict isn't private, it's going public. I'm making it known that my favor rests upon you, not in secret corners, but in visible spaces. You won't need to announce yourself. The evidence of my hand on your life will speak for you. This is not about being seen by crowds, it's about being aligned with heaven. You've been cleared to step into what was delayed. You've been released to run with boldness. You've been authorized to speak without shrinking. I have assigned angels to go before you and prepare the ground. I have dispatched favor to surround you like a shield. I have placed keys in your hands that open doors no human could manufacture. You are not a spectator in this season. You are a participant in a divine unfolding. And though others may not understand how you've emerged from what tried to bury you, they will not be able to deny what I've established. This is not luck. It's not chance. It's not coincidence. It is fulfillment of a decision already made in my presence long before time ever began. So walk forward, not timidly, but confidently. You are not on trial anymore. You are not trying to earn what's already yours. You are stepping into the reality of a ruling that declares, "This one belongs to me." Let that truth dismantle every doubt. Let it drive out every fear. Because in the place where your name was once tied to struggle, I have now attached it to victory, and heaven will not reverse it. You remember exactly how it felt when the doors closed without warning, when people you trusted turned away, when opportunities slipped through your hands like sand, and the sting of it all left a mark deeper than words could reach. There were moments when you questioned not just the circumstances, but yourself, as if their refusal was somehow evidence of your unworthiness. I was there in those moments, watching not in indifference, but with a deeper plan unfolding behind the veil. What you perceived as rejection was never meant to diminish you. It was me steering you away from paths that could not support the weight of your calling. I saw what you couldn't see. I knew the motivations hidden behind the invitations, the fragile foundations beneath the offers, the distractions disguised as destiny. And so, I allowed certain connections to break, not because you were unfit, but because you were overqualified for the level they could take you. I didn't allow them to see the depth of your value, not yet, because the space you were meant to grow in had not yet been revealed. And now, the very wounds that bled with confusion are transforming into launching points for greater movement. You are not being lowered. You are being elevated by another route. The detour wasn't a mistake, it was protection. The silence from those who once clapped for you was not punishment, it was preparation. Had I allowed their acceptance to define you, you would have anchored yourself to a version of success that would have capped your capacity. I'm not in the business of giving temporary applause. I'm after eternal impact. And what's happening now is not merely recovery, it's refinement. I have rerouted your journey not to delay your arrival, but to preserve the purity of your purpose. Every closed door redirected your energy, your focus, and your pursuit toward a place that was actually built for what I've placed in you. What once caused you to bow your head in embarrassment will now lift your eyes with perspective. The sting is being removed. The story is being rewritten. The same place where you were shut out will become a place you walk past without regret, not because you've grown cold, but because you've outgrown what couldn't carry you. I'm showing you that not all rejection is loss. Some of it is divine release. Release from the pressure to prove yourself. Release from the burden of fitting into spaces that weren't built with your design in mind. Release from expectations that would have drained you while convincing you to settle. And now, I'm breathing clarity into the places where confusion once lived. You will no longer call those moments of turning away your downfall. You'll recognize them as turning points. Every unanswered call, every missed opportunity, every table you were denied a seat at. They've all led you to the one I've been preparing, where your voice won't be tolerated. It will be treasured. You won't need to knock this time. I'm opening what no one can close. And when you step through, you'll understand why I had to let certain things end before they could begin. You'll stop asking why they left and start thanking me that you didn't stay. Because now, you're being placed where your roots can deepen, your gifts can expand, and your identity can breathe. I'm redeeming the narrative of rejection, not by erasing it, but by revealing the purpose within it. The tears you cried over being left out are becoming the very water that now causes new growth to rise from unexpected soil. I'm not building around what hurt you. I'm building through it. I've taken the fragments of your disappointment and used them as the blueprint for this next elevation. And as you rise, it won't be to prove anything. It will be to live in fullness, with no bitterness, only understanding. This is your redirection, not as a consolation, but as a divine correction, one that lifts, positions, and restores far beyond what your former path could have ever produced. You've carried the weight of waiting without answers for so long that it almost became normal. But now, I'm orchestrating a sequence so specific, so divinely timed, that you'll know with absolute certainty it could only be from me. You won't have to search tirelessly anymore or wonder if you've missed something important. I'm setting things in motion, connecting invisible threads, and sending reinforcements that will confirm what I spoke over you in seasons when you felt alone. These aren't random encounters or mere coincidences. These are strategic alignments, tailored to your journey, crafted with precision by the one who authored your story before time began. You've walked through seasons where it seemed no one understood you, where your passion was misunderstood, your intentions misread, and your heart misjudged. But now, I'm sending people who will not only see the real you but celebrate what I've placed inside you. They will recognize your purpose without you having to explain or defend it. These aren't temporary companions. They are covenant connections, the kind that sharpen your spirit, protect your vision, and fan the flame you've been tending in quiet places. You'll find yourself in conversations that stir something deep, in atmospheres that feel like home to your calling, in rooms that mirror what I've been shaping inside you. These people are answers, not distractions. They are part of the fulfillment, not the detour. And it won't stop there. I am also giving you signs, confirmations that will silence your doubt and ignite your courage. You've been asking, is this really you? And I'm responding, not with theory, but with unmistakable clarity. Watch what I do. Watch how the timing unfolds. You'll notice that things begin to align in ways that seem too perfect to explain. That's because I'm doing it. I am marking your path with reminders that I'm not only listening, I'm moving. These signs won't be vague. They will be so intricately woven into your days that even your quietest fears will be replaced with wonder. But I'm not only sending people and signs, I'm opening doors. Not just any door, doors that were made for you. Doors that do not require you to beg, to push, or to force your way in. The season of striving is giving way to the season of divine release. These doors won't lead you back into old patterns or half-fulfilled dreams. They will lead you into wide spaces, fruitful fields, and platforms built to sustain what I've planted in you. I'm not bringing you into crowded corridors of compromise. I'm ushering you into places of clarity, where your gift will not be diluted, and your voice will not be silenced. These opportunities are not man-made. They've been reserved under my authority, and now the time has come for you to walk through them. You won't be wandering anymore. The map is unfolding. You'll begin to sense direction again, and with it, ease. Not because the road will be without challenges, but because the steps are ordered. I'm calling your attention to these alignments, not so you become obsessed with signs, but so you understand the depth of my intentionality. I keep my word. I fulfill my covenants. I do not forget what I promise, even when you go through seasons where nothing reflects what you've been holding on to. Everything I spoke is still alive, and now I'm bringing external confirmation to what you've long carried internally. Prepare your heart. Like room in your thinking. I'm doing something that doesn't just restore hope, it expands it. You'll look around and realize that the people I'm placing in your life, the signs I'm giving you, and the doors I'm unlocking were all working toward the same destination, the manifestation of what I whispered in the stillness. This is not scattered movement. It is synchronized by heaven. And I'm not asking you to figure it out. I'm asking you to trust what's arriving. You won't have to chase what I'm aligning. It's already on its way. There is a shift taking place that no longer requires you to push with desperation, to hustle for what was already written with your name on it. The days of stretching yourself thin to be seen, of over-explaining your value, of exhausting your energy trying to make others understand what I placed within you, they are ending. You're entering into a rhythm where my favor surrounds you like a current that carries instead of crushes. What I'm bringing into your life now will come with anxiety attached. It won't require you to manipulate, adjust your identity, or exhaust your peace to maintain it. The striving that once left you breathless is being replaced with stillness that bursts momentum. This isn't passivity, it's divine positioning. You are not being asked to withdraw or be idle. You are being called to walk with a wind of grace beneath your steps. What I'm unfolding doesn't need your panic. It needs your posture. You don't have to try and fit yourself into spaces that demand you shrink in order to stay. The right doors are opening not because you kicked them down, but because you waited for me to unlock them. That's the rhythm of favor. It doesn't rely on force. It flows through surrender. I know how tired you became carrying burdens that weren't yours to lift, carrying assignments you were never asked to fulfill, trying to manufacture outcomes instead of receiving what was divinely timed. But now I'm calling you to drop the weight of performance, the pressure to impress, the urgency to compete, and to pick up rest, the kind of rest that doesn't mean you stop moving, but that you stop fighting what I've already made ready. You won't have to chase this next chapter. It's chasing you. You won't have to convince anyone of your calling. Your presence will speak what words cannot. I go ahead of you. I've prepared hearts to receive you, circumstances to welcome you, opportunities to honor what I've placed inside of you. And what's different now is that you're not stepping into these moments with insecurity or confusion. You're stepping in with clarity birthed in the wilderness. There was a time when it seemed everything required double the effort just to survive. But now you will see that fruit can come without burnout. That results can manifest without sacrificing your soul. That favor isn't about frenzy, it's about alignment. And alignment comes from trust. You trusted me when nothing made sense. You leaned on me when logic failed. You obeyed when you had more questions than answers. And now, that posture is producing flow. The kind that allows you to move without scrambling. The kind that carries you into rooms you never expected without needing to prove you belong. I am the one who validates you, who confirms you, who establishes you. And what I authorize cannot be undone by the opinions of those who never saw your process. You're entering a chapter where your efforts will no longer feel like uphill battles against unseen walls. Instead, you'll experience a noticeable ease, not because the path is empty of challenges, but because my presence will move with you in such power that obstacles will yield before they can overwhelm. You'll begin to feel the difference, the way things come together without pressure, the way provision arrives before you panic, the way clarity replaces confusion before it even finds space to settle. That's the difference between labor and grace. And I'm calling you into grace now, into confidence without the need for chaos, into effectiveness without emotional depletion, into success that doesn't demand your soul in exchange. This is the fruit of favor, and it flows. It's not a reward for your perfection. It's a response to your posture. Keep moving forward with expectancy, not anxiety. You won't have to strain to hold what I'm releasing. It's not fragile. It's not temporary. It's built in peace and carried by purpose. You're not entering this season as a fighter. You're entering as one who's found their flow. There were stretches of time when it seemed like I wasn't listening, moments when your prayers hung in the air with no visible answer, when the heavens felt closed and your soul echoed with the absence of my voice. You searched for signs, you begged for clarity, you wept for reassurance. But I remained quiet, not because I was gone, but because I was doing a deeper work than you could perceive. Silence is never indifference in my kingdom. It is often sacred space, where roots are formed and foundations are laid that no storm can shake. I wasn't ignoring you. I was strengthening you in ways that can't be accomplished through noise. I was developing something that wouldn't crumble under pressure, something lasting, something timeless. What I was shaping within you was not for a fleeting moment, but for an enduring purpose. While you were measuring progress with visible results, I was measuring growth through unseen surrender. Your quiet obedience during those still seasons carried more weight than you'll ever realize. While others ran ahead chasing visibility, you stayed with me in the shadows, where I was forming depth. And now that depth will carry you into dimensions that shallow faith could never reach. You thought you were being overlooked, but I was pulling you into intimacy, the kind that forges resilience in silence. I was cultivating unshakable truth in your spirit, truth that wouldn't be dependent on applause or affirmation, but truth that could stand alone, grounded in conviction. In the waiting, I stripped away false comforts and shallow dependencies. I allowed space between the asking and the answering to draw you closer, not further. You didn't realize it, but every unanswered cry became a brick in the altar I was building within you. Every pause, every delay, every quiet moment became a layer in the structure of something sacred. You are not the same as you were when you first started knocking. There's a depth in you now that wasn't there before, a weight of glory that couldn't be manufactured through shortcuts. The silence wasn't abandonment, it was construction. It wasn't rejection, it was refinement. I allowed time to stretch, not to torment you, but to strengthen the vessel that would carry what's coming next. And now, I'm about to show you what was really happening beneath the surface all along. The answers are beginning to break through, but they are not arriving into the same version of you that once begged for them. They are landing in a heart that has been shaped to receive, not just for the sake of blessing, but for the sake of bearing fruit that remains. The silence was never empty. It was full of my hands, carving, pruning, realigning, fortifying. You were asking for movement, and I was answering by molding. You were longing for response, and I was giving you revelation, not in the form of sound, but in the form of strength. Now, that strength is about to be seen in ways that surprise even you. The wisdom you gained while waiting will open doors that would have overwhelmed the old version of you. The clarity that formed in quiet places will now guide you with confidence. And you'll find yourself no longer fearing silence. You'll revere it, because you will know what it holds. I've not wasted a single second. Every moment of stillness hath been an investment into your eternity. This isn't about temporary comfort. It's about permanent transformation. I've taught you how to hear my heart, not just my words. I've trained you to walk by assurance, not by signs. And now that the silence is lifting, you'll walk with a steadiness the world won't understand. You'll carry presence without performance. You'll speak with authority that doesn't need to shout. That is the evidence of someone who's been built by heaven in the unseen. So don't resent the seasons where it seemed nothing was happening. Everything was happening. You just weren't supposed to see it then. But now you will. And when you do, you'll realize the silence wasn't the absence of my hand. It was the proof of my depth. And what I built in you there will never fade. You've lived much of your journey hidden from recognition, misunderstood in seasons where you carried things too sacred to explain. There were times when your potential felt invisible, your voice overlooked, your efforts unnoticed. But I saw it all. I never needed applause to validate you. I saw the depth, the courage, the fire inside you long before others even cared to look your way. I watched you choose humility when pride would have been easier. I witnessed your quiet sacrifices, the moments you poured yourself out with no audience, no reward, no validation, and I said, "This one is mine." I didn't choose you because of popularity, perfection, or performance. I chose you because I knew what I planted within you before you were formed. Let others assess way service, a love is substance. While they waited for results, I responded to your roots. What's been forming in the unseen is now about to be revealed in the open. Not for your glory, but for mine through you. I'm bringing you out of the shadows not to show off your ability, but to display my character. You've been through the crushing, the pruning, the refining, not because I was punishing you, but because I was preparing a vessel strong enough to carry something weighty. Now is the moment I unveil what I've been developing all along. The world will soon witness what I've always known, that you were marked for more. And this unveiling won't be shallow. I'm not placing you on platforms that will collapse beneath you. I've built you from the inside out so that when you rise, you stay grounded. I've taught you how to stand in the middle of storms, how to trust without needing explanation, how to love without needing return. These qualities, the ones I cultivated in silence, are about to become light in places where people have been stumbling in confusion. I'm elevating you not to be impressive, but to be impactful. You won't just be seen, you'll be sent. Not just promoted, but positioned. Your influence won't be measured by numbers or titles, but by the weight of my spirit flowing through you. I didn't rescue you from everything just to leave you where you were. I brought you through, because your survival was never the end. It was a beginning of a greater revealing. I'm giving others a glimpse of the glory that has lived within you all along. There will be some who are surprised by your emergence, who wonder where this version of you came from. But you and I know, it came from the wilderness, the weeping, the worship behind closed doors, the pressing that didn't break you. I've built you in secret so I could reveal you in strength. Not as a spectacle, but as a sign. A sign that I am still raising up those the world cast aside. A sign that purpose cannot be buried by pain. A sign that calling is not canceled by delay. You are about to become living evidence that I keep my word. Not one promise has fallen to the ground. I am bringing you into alignment with moments that have been waiting for you to grow into them. And now that you've matured beyond the need for recognition, I'm releasing it. You no longer crave attention, and that's why I can trust you with it. Your platform will be purpose. Your reach will carry restoration. Your presence will carry weight, because it's been forged in my presence. I'm not elevating you to compete. I'm placing you where your light cannot be hidden any longer. I covered you while I worked on you. Now, I will uncover you so that others may encounter me through your life. What they are about to see is not hype, it's holiness. Not noise, but power. You didn't make this happen. I did. And because of that, no man can take it from you. Now the unveiling begins. Now they'll see what I've seen all along. The one I chose before time. The one I refined in fire. The one I'm sending forth in fullness. The world is about to meet the you that I've always known. You've walked long enough in circles that kept repeating themselves, emotional loops, spiritual stagnancy, patterns of delay disguised as normal. But I'm declaring this moment as the final page of that chapter. The loop has lost its power. What once felt like an endless replay of setbacks, disappointments, and familiar resistance is now being broken, not temporarily but permanently. This is not a seasonal shift. It is a spiritual separation from what has tethered you to yesterday. I'm not refreshing the old path, I'm charting a new one. You won't have to rehearse old battles anymore. The weight that pressed you down cycle after cycle has lifted. You will no longer return to what drained you, nor revisit what kept you stuck beneath your calling. I am breathing into you a force of renewal so deep that even your thoughts are shifting. You will no longer expect struggle as your default setting. You will no longer brace for disappointment with every door. The inner alarms that rang every time things got good, they're being silenced. This is a full reset, not just of surroundings but of mindset, of rhythm, of inner dialogue. Where you once anticipated loss, you will now recognize opportunity. Where you once carried fear of what would fall apart, you will now carry faith for what will hold together. I am giving you new lungs, not physical, but spiritual capacity to inhale my presence and exhale purpose without depletion. Your endurance will no longer be survival-based, it will be spirit-empowered. Your breath is being recalibrated to match the season you're entering. No more panting from spiritual exhaustion, no more sighing under hidden pressure. Fresh strength is replacing the fatigue that once felt permanent. Strength not rooted in striving but in stillness. Not born from proving yourself but from abiding in me. I am awakening in you a vitality that cannot be imitated or outsourced. It is rising from the well of your obedience, that obedience which bloomed in the dark, when no one else saw your consistency, your persistence, your quiet yes when quitting whispered so loudly. Its strength, now fully formed, will carry you farther than you've dared to imagine. But I am not only giving you breath and strength, I am giving you vision. Not recycled ideas or second-hand dreams, but clear sight that penetrates distraction. I'm opening your inner eyes to see beyond circumstances and into possibilities I've held in reserve. You will begin to perceive what's truly yours, not what's flashy, but what's fruitful. Not what's popular, but what's anointed. You won't mistake counterfeit for calling anymore, because your vision has been refined by fire. You'll discern quicker, move wiser, and steward what's next with accuracy. You will no longer say yes from a place of desperation. You will say yes from a place of revelation. This clarity won't just guide your future, it will heal your past. You'll understand why certain things had to close, why certain people couldn't stay, why some places grew silent when you needed sound. Not because you weren't worthy, but because you were being preserved for what could only thrive in new soil. You're not repeating that story again. The version of you that endured that loop has graduated. I've equipped you with tools that don't belong to yesterday's battles. I've deposited discernment that doesn't belong in old cycles. I've placed you on the edge of something that doesn't mirror anything behind you. This next step is not a continuation. It's a crossing. You're leaving cycles and entering seasons. You're moving from delay into deployment. You're not circling anymore. You're advancing. Don't bring old expectations into this new expansion. Don't drag expired fears into this fresh atmosphere. What I am doing is new, and so are you. Step forward not cautiously, but confidently. This breath is not borrowed, it's given. This strength is not temporary, it's anchored. This vision is not vague, it's divine. The cycle is over. The fight is gone. And your footsteps, from this moment on, are ordered on a path that leads forward only. There were burdens so deep you didn't know how to name them, wounds that lived behind your smile, aches you tucked away even from your closest companions, but I saw every one of them. You carried unspoken weight like armor, pushing forward while silently bleeding in places only heaven could see. You became so accustomed to the pain that you stopped expecting relief. You called it your normal, adapted to the discomfort, and buried the hope that it would ever be different. But I never called you to survive by suppressing what still needed my touch. I never intended for you to walk with pieces of your heart sealed off, unaddressed. And so now, I'm stepping into the places you silenced, not to expose you, but to restore you. I'm not asking you to revisit the past. I'm reaching into it myself. I'm placing my hands on the fractures you thought were forgotten. Those moments you told no one about. I'm healing those. The heartbreak you tried to outrun by staying busy. I'm healing that too. The decisions you regret. The shame you learned to live with. The memories that still cause your chest to tighten. I'm confronting them with compassion, not condemnation. You don't need to explain the pain. I understand the language of the soul better than anyone. Even the sighs you've released into your pillow late at night were prayers to me. And now I am answering. You will begin to feel a release that you can't quite explain, a lightness in places that have felt heavy for years. This is not emotional hype. It's divine repair. I'm doing internal reconstruction, rebuilding the walls you thought would always stay cracked. And this healing will not be partial. I do not apply temporary bandages. I complete what I begin. You will not have to pretend anymore. You will not need to hide your limp or dress your wounds with forced strength. I'm giving you real freedom, the kind that doesn't just change how you look, but how you live. But I'm not stopping at healing. I'm restoring what was lost while you were surviving. There are dreams you shelved, convinced they were no longer possible. There were plans you gave up on because they seemed too far gone. But I kept them. I protected them while you were too tired to hope. And now I'm breathing on them again. You will soon find yourself dreaming like you haven't in years, not childish fantasies, but visions grounded in the new strength I've poured into you. I'm reviving purpose where you once settled for just enough. I'm reigniting callings that were buried beneath disappointment. You didn't lose them, you just paused. And now I'm pressing play again. Restoration is not bringing back the exact version you lost. It's bringing forth something stronger, purer, and more aligned with who you've become through it all. I am not recycling the old. I am redeeming it. You will recognize this restoration not by how it looks, but by how it frees you. You won't have to fight to maintain it, because I will sustain it. You will no longer see your history as a chain. You will see it as a testimony. And from that place of healing, from that place of restoration, you'll walk differently. You'll pray with more confidence. You'll speak with deeper conviction. You'll move through rooms without shrinking, no longer shaped by hidden pain but by revealed peace. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not too far gone. You are not a lost cause. You are the one I chose to redeem in fullness, not for show, but for significance. The healing is already happening. The restoration is already underway. And in the days ahead, what you feel will begin to match what I've been doing all along beneath the surface. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a life no longer ruled by hidden pain or silent loss. A life fully embraced, fully healed, and finally whole. You've carried the weight of certain decisions like chains, revisiting moments in your mind that you wish you could erase. Choices made in haste, in pain, in confusion, or simply in human imperfection. For so long, you thought those missteps had disqualified you, that they placed permanent limits on how far I could take you. You believed the consequences had canceled the calling, that the damage done had stained your future beyond recovery. But I want you to hear me clearly. I do not throw people away because of moments they wish they could undo. I do not discard destinies because of chapters written in weakness. I am the God who redeems, not the God of retribution. The very places you feel disqualified are now becoming altars of transformation. You've mourned the time you think was wasted, the opportunities you feel were lost, the relationships you believe you mishandled. But I am gathering those fragments and setting them beneath your feet. Not to mock you, but to elevate you. I am turning the very missteps you once hid from into the stones upon which you will stand stronger. Every regret, every if only, every lesson that came the hard way, I'm folding them into the structure of your purpose. You see, I never needed you to be flawless. I needed you to be honest, willing, surrendered. And you've become all three through the very process that once made you feel disqualified. The shame that tried to follow you like a shadow is being evicted, not by your effort, but by my mercy. Because I don't define you by your mistakes, I define you by my plan. And my plan includes redemption so deep that even your regrets will bow to grace. You are not the sum of your errors. You are the fruit of endurance. What you learn through the pain is more powerful than what you avoided through perfection. I'm not asking you to deny your past. I'm inviting you to allow me to redefine it. The scars you carry will no longer remind you of failure. They will testify of survival, of lessons learned, of mercy encountered in the depths of brokenness. This is not about pretending those seasons never happened. It's about recognizing that I never left you in them. I was there, even in the moments you weren't proud of, even when you pushed me away. I stayed. I waited. And now, I'm using it all. At wrong turn, I'm turning it into wisdom. At broken connection, I'm turning it into clarity. At moment of weakness, I'm turning it into strength for someone else who needs to know it's not too late. What once felt like a detour is becoming part of the testimony that will open doors you never expected. I'm redeeming the timeline. I'm restoring what you thought had expired. Your story isn't ruined, it's rising. And as I do this, you will feel freedom like never before. The guilt will begin to lift. The inner accusations will lose their voice. The cycle of replaying your past will be interrupted by my presence declaring, we're not going back, we're moving forward. I'm building on the lessons you didn't think were usable. I'm assigning purpose to places you thought were disqualified. And as you walk, you'll realize something powerful. The enemy wanted those mistakes to bury you, but I've turned them into bricks beneath your feet. Step by step, you're being elevated by the very things that once made you sink. You will not be known for what broke you. You will be known for how you let me rebuild you through it. The pieces are becoming pathways. The regrets are becoming revelations. And the shame is becoming a story that carries my fingerprint. Don't let the past whisper lies any longer. It doesn't hold the pen. I do. And what I'm writing now uses everything, even what you thought I couldn't use. I am the master of turning pain into purpose, and I'm doing it for you, starting now. You saw disorder. You felt disorientation. You walked through days when nothing added up, when what once made sense collapsed without warning, and what was familiar suddenly became foreign. Everything you tried to organize kept unraveling, and what you called stability turned to dust in your hands. You cried out in confusion, wondering where I went, why the structure of your life was folding in on itself. But what you called chaos, I called construction. I wasn't abandoning you. I was deconstructing what could no longer carry what I planned to build. I wasn't tearing things down to punish you. I was rearranging the very framework of your journey so it could finally support the destiny I authored for you. You couldn't see it at the time, but the things that fell apart were never strong enough to hold the weight of what I was preparing. I removed what you didn't realize was limiting you. I disrupted the rhythm that was slowly draining your purpose. I interrupted relationships, assignments, locations, even routines, not to confuse you, but to shift you. I saw where you were going if things stayed the same, and I loved you too much to let you stay where your calling would suffocate. Every closed chapter, every sudden ending, every moment that felt like destruction, I was present in all of it. You cried for rescue, but I was rebuilding. You asked for stability, but I was preparing you for movement. I had to dismantle what you were clinging to so that you could cling to me instead. It didn't make sense then, and I didn't explain everything, not because I didn't care, but because what I was doing required your trust more than your understanding. And now, you're beginning to see what you couldn't back then. The pieces are starting to fit. The fog is beginning to lift. Connections you thought were random are revealing divine strategy. Delays you resented are exposing themselves as divine detours that led you into greater clarity. The very ground that felt unstable is now showing signs of fresh foundation, And this time, it's solid. This time, what I'm building won't collapse under pressure. You'll no longer find yourself living reactively, always catching up with life. I'm placing you in a flow of forward motion where things click, where doors open without manipulation, where your energy aligns with purpose, not panic. I've realigned your relationships, surrounding you with those who sharpen, stretch, and support, not drain, distract, or diminish. I've realigned your focus, removing unnecessary distractions and magnifying what actually matters. I've realigned your heart, softening what was growing numb, reviving what was going cold, and healing what was hidden. The turbulence was never about destruction. It was about divine transition. You couldn't keep walking the same path with the same tools. So I brought you into a season where I could remove the weight of what no longer served you and replace it with strategy, clarity, and fresh grace. You didn't lose direction, you were redirected. You didn't fall behind, you were rerouted. And now, alignment is coming into every area. Your voice is finding its rhythm again. Your mind is regaining peace that doesn't waver. Your spirit is rising with fresh expectancy. And you'll find yourself walking into opportunities you didn't chase, arriving at destinations you didn't even have to plan, because alignment makes way for ease, and you've paid the price for this season with your faithfulness during the chaos. Others will see your progress and assume it came quickly, but they won't know the nights you spent not knowing what tomorrow held. Well, I saw it all, and now I'm rewarding your trust. From this moment forward, you will live aware of the alignment. You'll sense when to move, when to wait, when to release, and when to run. You'll no longer be controlled by confusion, because what once looked like chaos was actually the clearing of the old, to make room for the alignment I've now brought into your life. I have seen every tactic that's been deployed against you, the subtle distractions, the sudden attacks, the lingering heaviness that crept in when you were most vulnerable. None of it escaped my sight. I watched as spiritual resistance surrounded your forward motion, how pressure increased each time you got closer to purpose, how opposition became louder when your prayers grew bolder. You may have wondered why it felt like darkness intensified just as your faith was rising, but I want you to understand. The warfare didn't increase because you were weak. It intensified because you were approaching territory the enemy feared you would claim. You weren't being targeted because of what you lacked, but because of what you carried. The enemy saw your momentum and launched everything he could to derail it. Confusion, weariness, isolation, distraction, and delay. Not because he could stop you, but because he feared what would happen if you kept going. And yet, through all of it you stayed. You stood. You pressed forward, even when the atmosphere grew heavy and your strength felt small. And I want you to know, I was not distant in those moments. I allowed the enemy to show his hand, not to destroy you, but to expose what I was about to defeat publicly. You've seen the harassment. Now you're about to see my hand. I've let the storm rage long enough. I've allowed the noise to reveal itself. But now I'm stepping in. Not gently. Not subtly. I am stepping in with full authority, the kind that silences confusion, removes interference, and reestablishes peace with one word. I am confronting every force that dared to come against what I've anointed. What couldn't take you out in the trial will now have to back away in the triumph. The season of contention is coming to a close, not because the opposition gave up, but because I've drawn the line. I'm not negotiating your destiny. I'm not discussing your promise. I'm declaring it, and when I declare, it becomes. This isn't a partial intervention. It's a divine takeover. The ground the enemy tried to claim is being reclaimed by heaven. The places you felt were cursed are now being turned into landmarks of breakthrough. I am removing the enemy's influence, stripping him of access, and erasing the lies he tried to plant in your mind. You won't battle the same voices in this next stretch. You won't wrestle the same accusations. You won't carry the same emotional weight. I'm ending it. I'm rebuking the devourer who came to steal your confidence, your clarity, your fire. I'm rebuking the tormentor who tried to convince you that nothing would ever change. I'm rebuking the liar who told you the delay was your fault, that the disappointment was your identity. Amor. I'm surrounding you with clarity now. I'm clothing you in fresh confidence. I'm placing an invisible barrier around you, one that resists sabotage and confusion. You've been in survival mode, but now I'm bringing you into secured territory. You'll sense it. The shift will be tangible. What once took all your energy to push through will now begin to part without effort. What once required constant prayer just to maintain will now flow with grace, because my hand is actively removing what was never meant to remain. This is the hour of divine enforcement, not just promises spoken, but promises enforced by heaven's authority. No force beneath can override the command I've issued over your life. No system, no agenda, no resistance can stay where I've sent my word to govern. You will not be bound by invisible warfare anymore. You will not be worn down by invisible barriers. I am releasing you from it. The enemy had time to throw everything he had. Now it's my turn to demonstrate what he cannot compete with. My power, my voice, my covering. Watch what happens now. Watch how swiftly things shift when I step in. The battle was fierce, but the victory will be final. You are not stepping into relief. You are stepping into dominion. You may not have words for it yet, but you've already begun to feel it. A subtle yet undeniable shift in the very air around you. It's not something visible to the natural eye, but your spirit has sensed it. The heaviness you once thought was normal is starting to lose its grip. The uncertainty that hovered like a cloud is thinning. That strange tension that made you feel like everything was on hold is breaking apart piece by piece, and it's not because your environment got lighter. It's because my glory is settling upon you with purpose. I've stepped into your atmosphere to clear out what doesn't belong and to release what couldn't arrive, while confusion lingered. I am not merely passing through. I am establishing something permanent. When I enter a space, I don't just visit, I govern. I take authority. I bring alignment. I shift what's been dormant. I silence what's been chaotic. And that's exactly what's happening right now, not only around you but within you. Your surroundings are reflecting what I've already begun deep inside. I am not only healing your heart, I am reshaping your atmosphere to match the new wholeness I'm building within you. Where there was disorder, I'm releasing divine structure. Where there was emotional noise, I'm introducing sacred stillness. Where there was hesitation, I'm making room for bold direction. The spiritual climate that once made you feel buried is now being transformed into fertile ground. Things that wouldn't grow before will now thrive, not because you're striving harder, but because my presence is creating the conditions for breakthrough. You are not simply moving into a better season. I'm bringing the season to you by transforming the space you stand in. Walls are being torn down, invisible ones that limited you. Ceilings are being removed, false ones that told you this was as far as you could go. And with every barrier that lifts, more of my light fills your surroundings. It's like a fresh wind, ushering in change that has no natural explanation. People around you won't always understand it. Some may try to explain it away. But you'll know, this isn't coincidence or luck. This is the result of my active involvement. When I place my hand on a place, everything adjusts. Resistance bows. Delay gives way. Closed doors unlock. And the distractions that used to disturb your peace will lose their volume in the presence of my clarity. What I'm doing around you is not fragile. It's not fleeting. This is not a temporary moment. It's a divine installation. I am establishing a covering, a perimeter of peace, a mantle of protection that not only shields you from what once affected you, but repels what tried to return. You had to fight for peace in past seasons. You had to guard your focus with everything you had. But now, I'm setting a new standard in the atmosphere, one where my spirit flows freely, where revelation comes quickly, where heaviness cannot stay. You'll notice the difference even in your daily moments. Where confusion once delayed your decisions, you'll now walk in precision. Where restlessness kept you pacing, A stillness will settle you with confidence. Even in your sleep, you'll feel a calm you haven't known for years. Not because the world got quieter, but because your space has been overtaken by my dominion. And this isn't just for your comfort. This shift in atmosphere is making room for acceleration. I had to change the climate before I could release the harvest. I had to cleanse the air before I could call forth what's been waiting. And now that the atmosphere is shifting, you'll find that what you once labored for begins to come to you. You'll attract what aligns with my will. You'll draw what's been assigned to you. You'll receive what had no room to land until now. My presence has written the rules in your atmosphere, and what's ahead will not resemble what was behind. Because where I am, everything must bow, and everything must become new. There's been a quiet pressure within you, a silent battle between trust and comparison, where timelines became torment and every delay made you wonder if something slipped through your hands. You've watched others move ahead, receive answers, step into open doors, while you remained waiting, wondering, recalculating your steps. The enemy whispered that you were forgotten, that somehow you missed a crucial moment, that perhaps you failed to discern the season. But I silence that lie today with my truth. You are not late. You haven't missed me. You are not lagging behind. In fact, you're positioned with precision, exactly where I need you to be for what I am preparing to release. Timing in my kingdom doesn't operate on the measure of earthly calendars or visible clocks. What I ordain arrives when all things, seen and unseen, are ready to support the full manifestation of what I've spoken. And that's what you haven't yet realized. I haven't just been preparing you, I've been preparing everything connected to you. While you thought you were waiting on the blessing was also being positioned to find you in full maturity. I was aligning resources, shaping relationships, refining atmospheres, and clearing out obstructions so that when my release arrives, there will be no resistance, no backlash, no collapse. This won't be a fragile breakthrough. It won't be something you'll have to constantly protect from falling apart. It will come in strength, in fullness, in stability, because I waited until everything was ready, including you. You see, the delay wasn't punishment, it was protection. You wanted the door to open sooner, but I saw what was behind it. You wanted the platform to rise quickly, but I saw the weight that came with it. I didn't say no. I said not yet, and now that the yet has arrived, so has my signal for movement. You'll begin to see things shift faster than your preparation. Don't be alarmed. I have equipped you in secret. You've grown more in silence than others have in the spotlight. You've learned to listen in the quiet, to obey without applause, to walk without always understanding. And all of that has formed in you a strength that cannot be shaken. That's why now is your moment. Not because you forced it, but because I've declared it. I have measured the timing, and it is good. This is divine release, not random luck. This is the unveiling of what's been hidden, not the arrival of what was lost. You didn't fall behind. You were set apart. You weren't passed over. You were preserved. I chose this exact timing to reveal what I planted inside of you long ago. And though others may look surprised, you will walk forward with the knowing that this was always part of my divine plan. You'll step into rooms that were closed, not because you knocked harder, but because I'm holding the key. You'll receive opportunities that once seemed unreachable, not because you begged, but because I've appointed this hour for your unveiling. You'll feel like things are happening quickly, but know this: nothing is rushing, everything is right on time. The pieces are falling into place because I've declared the release. No more questioning the pace. No more comparing your path to others. No more rehearsing regrets. You are right where you need to be, in the center of my will, under the shadow of my timing, ready to carry what's been waiting to find you. The pressure is lifting. The urgency you felt to catch up is dissolving. You're not catching up, you're walking in sync. And this rhythm is going to carry you further than striving ever could. My release is not just coming, it has already begun. You're not behind. You're right on time for the door, for the answer, for the shift, for the blessing, for the unveiling. This is your moment, divinely timed, heaven-backed, and ready to unfold. Amen.